Hold on.
Welcome. It is the third week of February 2021, and this is a podcast brought to you by the former athletes.
I
hope y'all listened to episode 1. If y'all did listen to episode 1, you're probably wondering what asshole was too cocky to introduce himself. That's me. I am Cam Graham.
That's right.
Welcome, Cam. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, Cam?
Hey! To my right is our soccer guy, and he can't play sports with his hands, Jordan Durner. Let's go, Jordan. What up? And that's locked. That's locked in stone.
You said to start with him.
Yeah, that seems like the grand finale.
Yeah.
And to the bottom left is a dude, Nick. What do you think? You clocked about 30 minutes of sports watching this week?
Oh, at least like 36, bro. No doubt.
Hey, let's go. 36. Nick Walls. What's up, Nick?
What up, fellas?
Simple. I like it. What up, fellas? Let's go. And to the right, the man of many faces and sometimes a dog. We'll explain it one day. What's up, Jonathan? Jonathan Satt.
Not much. I'm not from Maryland. How are you guys doing?
Yeah. Let it be known.
Everybody went at their own pace, the new intros, and we'll see how they go. We'll work on them for next time, okay? This episode is going to be jam-packed with some NBA stuff. Jam-packed with NBA. We got AllStar Weekend coming up.
That's right.
I think in March. NBA All-Star Weekend is in March. February?
It would have been today if it was last year.
We're a sports podcast, so we'll get it figured out. We're going to talk a little bit of NFL action, about some players' movement. The trade market is a buzzing, and we're going to find out what the boys think about some quarterbacks. You know, maybe some J.J. Watt getting cut. Where's he going to go? Baltimore Ravens. I'm just saying.
Let's hope.
We might get into some, dual sport athletes. I mean, Chris Hogan. He's jumping into the lacrosse game. Will he join the likes of Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Tim Tebow? Or is he just going to be a guy that's forgotten? We'll talk about it. And we'll also talk about the Bucs Super Bowl parade. The dude Tom Brady and Gronk were on another level. But hey, we'll talk about it. Let's get into this NBA stuff. Nick, tell me about what you think. We got like a skills competition. We got a dunk contest at halftime. Some teams are hot, some teams are not. Give it to me. What you got?
All right, well, first, I think we got to figure out, do we have those things or not? I'm still uncertain from what I've been seeing, if All-Star Weekend's going to happen, because, as the players say, if LeBron says we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And if he says we're not going to do it, we're probably not going to do it. And I think everybody's seen the quote at this point of my man saying he got no energy, no excitement for an All-Star Weekend. And to be honest, I don't blame my man. We literally, especially for the Lakers, the Heat, anybody that made it deep into the playoffs. I mean, some teams prior to the season had 9 months off. I'm sure they've got all the energy in the world. But for the teams that went deep, and I mean, just in general, teams have been cranking out 3-4 games every week to have a 5-day vacation, potential off time. And then if you are in the All-Star Weekend, you don't even got to be in the All-Star game, but if you end up in the dunk competition, if you end up in the skills competition, you basically have 3 of those days that are now booked, which is just as busy, if not busier, than the regular season. So we already got this shortened season where everybody's got to grind, and now we're asking them to do more. As a fan, of course, I want to see it. I do get excited about it. Even some of the silly stuff. One of my favorite things to watch is the celebrity All-Star game. That shit's tough. And I don't imagine they don't do All-Star Weekend. That's the only thing. They just have the celebrity All-Star game. And they replace the dunk contest and shit with celebrities. That would be kind of tough. Great. But I mean, it is a good time, but trying to sympathize as a player, if I was asked to do that, I think given this year, I would want my time off to be able to relax, see my family and stuff like that. So I don't blame them if they don't want to do it. I think it would still be cool to see who would make the All-Star team and they still get those honors. The only thing
Bradley Beal.
Yeah, hey, Brad Beal definitely deserves a spot. And the only thing that I feel bad for is the first time All-Stars that your first time being an All-Star, Jaylen Brown is somebody that, has been talked about a lot. You don't get to actually enjoy your first All-Star game and go out there. But I don't know, Jonathan, what do you think, bro? Would you want to be just in honors or would you want to be there?
I mean, it's like you said earlier, it's got to be tough for these people, right? Because like the ones who are being asked to do this were the ones who went deep into the playoffs, right? Like, can you guys name me an all-star, like a serious all-star who just didn't go the playoffs, like deep into the playoffs? It's like I'm thinking like
Well,
Steph
Bradley
Curry,
Beal.
Bradley Beal.
Bradley
Let's
Beal.
go. Bradley
like,
Beal.
Michael
Okay.
Beasley.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Steph
Okay.
Curry and Bradley
Cut
Beal
that.
can be doing 1v1, right? Because I feel like
Yeah.
there's not too many all stars after that. Like everyone was playing, so it's like it's got to be really tiring to play a full season, have like a 2-week break, and then get right back into it. And I believe that they weren't even told that they were. I think at the beginning of the season they were told that they're not doing the All-Star Weekend, but then they just like flipped the switch. And now everyone's expected to do it. And I mean, like, if they do it, like, yeah, seriously, it's the money. If they do it,
They want
like,
the bands.
props to all the all-stars who want to do it. Well, like, that's got to be really, really tiring.
Are players gonna play? Like, I know LeBron came out and said, like, oh, I'm not like excited about it, I guess, but are players gonna play like big names, or is this gonna be like an off-brand all-star game? I know it's already gonna be an off-brand dunk contest, probably like.
It's been an off-brand dunk contest for the last like 8 years.
Okay, hold up. I am still upset about Aaron Gordon being robbed
we got a
from the
Magic
dunk
fan.
contest. And the
Yes.
resident Magic fan in the house is pissed about Aaron Gordon getting destroyed like by the oh my gosh. He should have won
Honestly,
the dunk contest ever since, not the same. It's just
Well,
sad.
as off-brand as some of the dunk contests have been, Aaron Gordon and Zach Levine are arguably like two of the best dunkers all time.
Great. Yeah.
It just happens to be that their competition is like people that we never hear of. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Like,
Zach
those two
Levine,
really do
another
hold it
all-star.
down.
Zach Levine,
Yeah.
another all-star that like what didn't go deep in the playoffs last year.
So look, somebody like him, Bradley Beal, Bradley Beal's been snubbed in the past. Zach Levine is really like showing he's more than just like a bouncy guy. Like those guys, I'm sure they'd be stoked. I know I would be stoked to be like selected to like my first, second, third, like an early on all-star team. And especially like to your point, if you haven't gone deep in the playoffs, like I'm ready to hoop. Like I'm a hooper. I want to play. It's just for the people that have been around and like you guys were saying, have been deep in the playoffs. Like it is a lot. It's a lot to ask. And especially like consider the fact that, we talked about it a little bit like offline, off air, like somebody like AD, who is a perennial all-star dealing with an injury bug, like Durner, if you selected to be an all-star, right? But you dealing with a little nagging injury, like, are you risking it for an all-star game? Like, dude,
No, I know there's some money on the line. From the articles that I've read, like the winners, they get like 25, 30K or something along those lines. I could be totally wrong. It could be more now. Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm not risking
Kentucky and Duke 45. And UNC.
I'm risking the rest of my career or my season for, an injury that could end my career, essentially. It's an Achilles, right? And
yeah, that's what he's working with.
Yeah, and like that's a long time. That's worse than the ACL. And I'm not going to risk it.
And the Lakers are going to be like top 4 regardless, I think. So, if you're Anthony Davis,
Right.
take them 2 or 3 weeks, forget that all-star game. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan, you give me like a
Yeah.
look. You give me a look about the
No,
Lakers being top 4.
For a second, I thought you were trying to say that Lakers would be top 4 without Anthony Davis, and I was about to say that's a tough ask.
I think they would.
They are hooping right now, bro.
I think they.
Oof.
It's a good team. They are good, man. But obviously, you want your superstars.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I think really piggybacking off what everybody else has said, like LeBron's 35, 36, dude. Like, let the
36,
man
yeah.
rest. We know he can. We know he can ball, but like the All-Star game's not really the make or break situation. It's
Okay.
a championship.
But if we used to be former athletes, right? We used to be former athletes.
No,
Now
we
we're
are
just
former
I was gonna say,
athletes.
some
We used to
say
be.
it's
Oh,
still
yeah. I don't know when you
Little
came out of
grammar.
retirement, but I'm still
Yeah, little grammar correction there. Little grammar
He's gonna be an
correction.
all-star
But
game,
anyway,
you didn't hear?
yeah, we are former athletes, but now unfortunately we're just fans though. Like as a fan though, like all-star game without LeBron, like Kawhi definitely not gonna play. The dude sits like all the time regardless.
Hilarious.
So some of these big name dudes like that, like or as a fan, are you gonna watch the game?
Here's the thing: if they have the game,
I watched the dunk contest.
Well, dude, that's what I was
Maybe
gonna say. I'm watching it if it's on TV because I think it is entertaining. But as a fan and trying to, relate to being an athlete previously and like knowing what it, at least a semblance of what it must feel like to be put in that position where it's like, damn it, like I want to obligate or feel my obligations to the fans to put on a good show and trying to be understanding as a current fan. I would still consider like watching it. I think All-Star Weekend could still be a thing if they had celebrity game, dunk contest, skills competition, 3-point shootout, and like maybe like the game is replaced by just how they've been doing like USA versus World, like the rookie sophomore game type shit. I mean, because those are going to be the guys that have the fresh legs, and those are going to be guys. It's not the exact same thing, but like I don't know. I don't know if that's asking too much, but to me, that could be like at least a decent middle ground where it's like the NBA has a chance to put something on TV. They have an opportunity to get some sort of money from, commercials and brand deals and stuff like that. And there's still some sort of All-Star weekend. But we didn't even talk about in like, Cam, what do you think? We in the middle of a pandemic still, and we're still going to be pulling together all of these teams. We talked about it last episode with the KD thing getting pulled out in the middle of the game when he's still amongst all of his teammates and the other team. Like, where is this like falling into this? This is what I don't understand.
I think like priority number one is money, obviously, because they're taking the word of the players. I think, they're saying, hey, y'all are supposed to be quarantining. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be playing it safe so you can play in the NBA season. So it should be no issue with y'all coming together. True. But obviously, like, I don't know. Obviously, that's not working for a lot of teams. The Wizards missed like a bunch of games in a row. I think another team missed a bunch of games. So.
Right.
They have to get the COVID sniffing dogs, and they also just got to check everybody's hand for lemon pepper seasoning.
Okay, there we go.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think the biggest issue right now, right, is from a player's perspective. There's no if you're LeBron James, you have zero reason to be playing in the All-Star weekend, right? And as
Zero.
a fan, when you're not watching like the top echelon players go up against each other, it's like, it kind of diminishes in value, right? Like, I'd love to see a Rising Stars challenge, no issues with that, but like, what we all think of is, LeBron versus KD versus, Giannis versus, James Harden. And I think right now, what the event is missing is stakes, right? Like, these players have nothing to play for right now. And what I really loved about the last All-Star, like a season, like All-Star event, was that they ended up, instead of doing like East versus West, where the West always just wins and destroys a team, it was like pickup basketball where you could just like pick people, and then the winner would get to donate to like the charity of their choice, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, at least that way, like if you're LeBron, you're like, okay, like I can play towards, I'm playing towards something, right? Like there are proceeds being created, and I can go to where I want to go. So I want to go dunk so I can go get these kids a college education, right? So I feel like. And when you set it up that way, it's fun for the fans, fun for the players, right? Because like without any of that right now, they're just, oh, you're telling me to go play? Like, I guess. I mean, but there's nothing to play
if you
for.
If you do that pick'em stuff, though, somebody's got to teach Giannis how to draft an NBA team. He basically like handed LeBron.
It's so bad, dude.
I mean,
but the game was super close last year.
It was way better than I thought.
What Jonathan was saying, the game came down to the wire, and I heard a lot of criticism last year, and I would like to see them build off of it, if not this year, next year, because I do like that format where they're talking about the game can't end on a free throw. I don't necessarily know how they go about doing that. If they just bump the, so say AD makes that one free throw. So instead of ending on 147 or 157, whatever it is, maybe it goes to 158. So you can't necessarily end on a free throw. But the game turned up in that last quarter because of that. And I think a way that you can maybe like, outsmart like some of the players, because, I mean, these are professional athletes. They're like super competitive people, is you go in there and somebody like LeBron, somebody like AD, somebody like, I don't know if Jimmy Butler... I know he's been out a lot, so I don't know if he's like all-star eligible. But you take those players that were later in the playoffs that have been playing a bunch that are maybe a little nicked up right now, and you say, hey, we're going to manage your minutes. We're going to, you're a starter, so we're going to have you start, but we're going to pull you after 3 or 4. But then we get later into the third and the fourth quarter, and maybe their competitive nature just comes over. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I was in a game, and I know, like, if I'm LeBron, and I know, like, oh, it's a close game. Like, I want to win. To Jonathan's point, like, I want to be able to donate to my charity. Like, I feel strongly about this. Those guys, I think, are going to go into the game and they're going to play hard. Like, I'd honestly be surprised if, LeBron was a starter and went in, played 4 minutes, and then just sat for the rest of the game. I mean, it's a good opportunity for some of those, newer all-stars. Once again, I'll toss out like Jaylen Brown, even though, I mean, the way it's shaping up, like he might be an all-star starter, but Zach Levine is another guy. Like for those guys to really get some clock in an all-star game, they still get the award or like the honor, the recognition. They get to actually play in a game. It's not just, entitled alone. But I do think those other guys, maybe, towards the end of the game, they're like, all right, F it, put me in. I'm ready to hoop.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's shift to this thought real quick though. So I know Nick, you had mentioned like off air, like at some point Alex Caruso was number 10 in All-Star guard voting. So if you are like Alex Caruso, like good basketball player, but if you're being real with yourself, at no point do you think you're a top 10 guard in the West, but you are voted into the All-Star game. Are you going? Like, what do y'all do, Jonathan? What do you think?
I'm absolutely gonna play. If I get voted in, I'm playing. Right? Like, that's your brand. That's exposure. If you can get a dunk on, like, look, I feel like it is low risk, high reward. Because if, like, I'm Alex Caruso, I'm clearly not the 10th best player in the league. But if I can yam on Giannis, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna get some.
And he could.
Right? So
no, stop. No,
bro. Have you seen my man?
Yes.
He's got bounce, and if he gets it at the right time, you know what I mean? I'm not
LeBron
saying he's
gives
going
him a
like
backdoor
one-on-one, like chest to chest with Giannis. If he could catch something off the rim, and Giannis could be the wrong place at the wrong time, and just
yeah, you bet.
Holy shit!
If I get voted in, I'm gonna ask for LeBron to throw me that backdoor pass so I could yam on like Giannis. I'm doing it 100%.
And the All-Star game is the time to do it because they're not really playing defense like that. You just got to catch somebody sleeping like down like in the paint and. Oh, it's a clip. It's a clip for sure.
It is a dunk contest. So the All-Star game is just who could score more, faster, and do more flashy shit. I love it. Right. When the players are there, I love it.
Bro, dunks in half quarter.
Fourth quarter is basically when everybody kind of tightens up a little bit. I feel like.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But dude, I don't know if I'm Caruso. And here's the thing: I don't know if it was last year, or the year before, but like Boban got a lot of votes like that, and he was higher than 10th. My man was like 3rd or 4th in the rankings, and like I'm torn because when you've achieved that status like Boban had, and like Alex Caruso is getting this year, like you are a man of the people. You are the people's champ. So for that, I feel like you kind of, you know what I mean? You don't want to disrespect the people. You got to go out there. That being said, I don't think the NBA let Boban do the NBA or do that. And I think they only the starters get voted in by the people. I think after that, the coaches are the ones that decide, if I'm like not mistaken.
I think so.
But I mean, to Jonathan's point, it is a great opportunity. I just know for me, I would feel awkward because, you know what I mean? Like we talk about Bradley Beal a couple times already, and I think everybody here would agree that he kind of got snubbed last year. Imagine if you're taking Bradley Beal's spot. You know what I mean? Like, you're the reason that this guy who is very deserving, like, literally, like, honestly, they're in different conferences, so it wouldn't happen, but just for a mental exercise. My man's averaging 35 points or something ridiculous right now, like, leading all guards, and you're the one that takes his spot just because, like, you're the people's champ. I'd be conflicted. I don't know, man.
Look, it's a business, so if the NBA is all about, it's a business, we're just trying to make money. Look, if the people vote for Boban, if they vote for Taco Fall, if they vote for Alex, you put them in.
Taco,
that's what the people
my boy,
see, right? Like I don't care. We're already getting super teams, and like every team is a super team. You got the Warriors, you got the Lakers, you got the Nets. Like everyone's a super team, right? What I want to see is like Taco Fall, like he's trying to go up against like Giannis with like I don't know, like.
That's
There's
true.
Variety in there, like that's different, right?
Hey, I might feel bad, but at the end of the day, like they are, like Derner said. They are throwing me a check for being at this All-Star game. So who am I to turn down, $25,000 or whatever you said it is?
And more than that, you add in that shit to your resume. So next time contract negotiations come around, you're like,
All-Star.
I'm an All-Star.
Are you
All-Star,
sure?
baby.
I'm one-time All-Star Nick Walls over here. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
you pay me as such.
He walks into the room and they're like, "Hey, Alex, how are you doing?" Like, that's All-Star Alex Caruso to you.
They go to shake his hand, he just stares at him.
Yeah.
You get no daps from me, sir.
Hey, so we're not going. We got to end it. We got to end our NBA talk a little bit, but before we do that, we got to talk some Draymond Green comments, NBA disrespecting players. At the same time, the owners, hey, we can do what we want. The players can't do what we want. What we thought about Draymond Green and his quote.
I think this has been
don't all talk at once.
Slow moving shift. Hey, okay, I got it. But I mean, it's been a slow moving shit for a while now. I mean, once again, shout out my boy LeBron. Holy shit, like I'm gonna talk about him all episode. Just get used to it, people. This is just what I'm gonna be doing, okay? But when he made the move to Miami, when he made the move to Miami, he started this like player like empowerment, like mobility thing like that. And of course, like teams, like team owners and stuff like that, of course they're not going to like that because they've got less power, like as far as the situation goes, where they can kind of control the superstars. And it's like, shout out to a guy like Giannis who goes to a, you know, not a big market, like a franchise like the Bucks, and the Bucks treat him so well and he likes it enough there that he wants to stay. But you talk about somebody like LeBron where he did not love his situation. Cleveland was dog shit. So he's like, all right, I'm out of here. Like, I'm not going to stick around for this. I think it's just coming more and more to the forefront. And like, as a team owner, like if you want to, I don't know, like keep your employees in check is almost kind of what it's like. You know what I'm saying? Like they're paying the bill. So it's like, as my employee, I have you under this contract for 3 years, and you know, 2 years deep, people are like, nah, I don't want to be here. Like I'm trying to bounce. And of course they're going to be upset about it. You know what I mean? It's almost like, I could see how you're kind of like going back on your deal, but to me, it's the type of like mindset where it's like, if somebody's going to do it, it might as well be me. You know what I mean? Like, imagine me and Jonathan are both trying to get out of our contract, but because I'm unhappy and I decide like, let me just stick out my, you know, what I agreed to. And Jonathan says like, no, I'm gonna get out of this shit. And the team that I wanted to go to now takes Jonathan. Well, now I have no opportunity to go where I wanted to go, and I'm still stuck with this shitty situation. So I don't blame him. Long story short, I don't blame him, bro.
It's all a business, dude. It's all a business. It goes back to like, hey, if the owners say like, hey, you know, whatever the reason, GM, we're going to be in a rebuild or whatever. Like, hey, we don't have enough money to spend on you. They're going to trade you away. Oh, you got a future contract coming up?
Yeah.
Fuck you. We'll trade you away. We'll get you back some pieces and we'll roll on. You have to move your family. You have to move this. You have to move that.
Right.
You got to change your whole life. Think about that. If I get fired from my job in D.C., I'm going to go back to another job in D.C. These dudes will get fired from a job in D.C., basically getting traded away and having to go to Houston, Texas, where it's cold as shit, by the way, right now. But they're going to have to go to Houston, or they're going to have to go to L.A. or something, move their whole family, different schools, this, that, and the other. So it's like, and the NBA media are the ones that vote for like the Hall of Fame and stuff too. And everything is about legacy now. So legacy, legacy, legacy. If you're only going to give me a team, you're only going to give me a big market, you're not going to put me in the playoffs, put me in front of fans, put me in championships, and why am I going to waste my years with you?
Right.
Dude,
I think it's all like, if you're James Harden, right, and you say I demand a trade, you're gonna get traded. Why? Because you're James Harden, right? He held Houston by the balls. He could do whatever he wanted. Like, I don't know, like if you guys like have like read up on like the status over there, like Westbrook hated Harden because he just did whatever he wanted to, and the staff was just like, well, that's him. We can't control him. He puts up 40 a night, and you know he's getting us to the playoffs every year. Like, what can you do? So like when he demands it, like that's fine, right? Like, but like when you look at like the lesser players, it's like you're not going to be able to do that. And then if you start trying to say, oh, like I want to get out, then you just like immediately isolate yourself. Like no GM's going to want you for throwing this temper tantrum. Like the only reason why James Harden got away with it is because he's an all-star. But it's like, to your point, Cam, like it's a business, right? But at the same time, it's a business. It's a business for the NBA, but it's also a business for the players, right? Like I know it's a contract, but guess what? I have a contract, you know, like we all have contracts, right? Like that says like we're employed and we get money this much, right? We could, you know, just because it's like, if you want to leave, you should have the ability to leave, right? Like James Harden was like, oh, okay, like contract, cool, tear it up, right? Who's gonna sign me, right? I mean, like obviously that'd be really dumb, but like I feel like, you know,
hey, be who you can afford to be, though. Be who you can afford to be. Like if you're a player and you're like dog shit, like you're not going to turn in there, hey, trade me, I'm trying to go to LA and win this championship. Like, no, you can't do that. But if you're a big name player, obviously you're like, hey, our team isn't good enough to beat this team, like get me out of here, we'll start over from scratch. Like, be who you can afford to be. If you're a scrub, you're going to get cut. If you start talking up, it is what it is. Because that's, I mean, hey, smooth transition right here, Cam, smooth transition. But like NFL players asking for trades now, and that's like a big thing, which is new. It's like new to the NFL. I feel like if you go back 5 years, You got with the team. If they were good or if you performed good, they're going to sign you to a new contract. When you sign to a new contract, you play it out till you sign a new contract. Some teams treat you like family, this, that, and the other. But now these NFL teams are putting dog shit players around Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, but he's just a dog shit player in general, I think. And then, but Sam Darnold, they're talking about Sam Darnold, dog shit coach around him, dog shit team, offensive line just got good last year, no players. Like now that this NBA lifestyle is starting to move into the NFL, and I'm all with it if you ask me. I am all for it.
I agree. I think I think all American sports today, all organizations, NBA, NFL, MLS, MLB, they own the rights of each player. And I think that's where it makes it tough over the past decades, for instance. Now we're starting to see players kind of just give a little pushback and be like, if I don't want to be here and if I'm uncomfortable and I don't like the situation I'm in and you're not giving me what I want, then I want to go to an organization that's going to give me that, right? That's going to be best for me, also my family as well. You know what I mean? So I think we're starting to see a wave, like you said, of transition to where players will be a lot more outspoken, and it's going to take a little bit to kind of get adjusted to for owners and organizations. But I mean,
yeah, but if you're the owners, you've been fucking people for years, at least in the NFL.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. I get that.
I think they're just salty. They're not doing it as often anymore.
Yeah, bro, they'll sign you to they'll sign you to 5-year contracts. Next thing you know, you're your second year in, and they're like, "Hey, sorry, bud. We only signed you to a $20 million guaranteed money. That money is gone. It's your third year. We're gonna cut you because we can't afford you anymore." I mean, NFL players get screwed definitely more than NBA players. That's why it's kind of surprising when you hear Draymond Green kind of speak up on that issue. When, in my opinion, the NBA is the most player friendly league by far, compared to the MLB, compared to the NFL. I don't know shit about MLS. I don't know if they're player friendly or not. But compared to the MLB, compared to the MLB and the NFL at GMs and owners will cut you in a heartbeat. Fuck your family.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
absolutely.
You talk about it being a business and everything too. That's one of the stranger things about the NFL. The NBA has been pushing players as the marquee thing. You know what I'm saying? If you look at a TV preview of, two random teams like the Heat against the Sixers, you're going to see a graphic of Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. You know what I'm saying? They don't necessarily promote the teams as much as they do the players. Where the NFL, it's all about the shield, right? We're worried about the Ravens-Steelers game, not about Ben Roethlisberger versus Lamar. As much as fans, we might be in tune to stuff. That's not how they be advertising that stuff.
No.
So I think it makes it a little bit more difficult for the players. But because of the NBA's got this player empowerment movement, I think that is trickling into other professional sports. And the fact that there's social media and everybody has their own individual brand now, I don't think you necessarily need to bank on these teams so much to be cashing your checks for you. Where especially once again, easier for the NBA because they got shoe deals where kids want to hoop in Steph Curry's shoe, in Jimmy Butler's PE, all these different things. Whereas you could be the best football player, but I don't think people really give a squirt about your cleat. You know what I'm saying? I think Tom Brady and Cam Newton have a cleat with Under Armour. I don't see anybody getting hyped over that shit. So it's a little bit more difficult. But also, Cam, you were talking about it earlier. What's crazy to me, an NFL player's career is typically much shorter than the other professional sports.
Yep.
And you can be cut, but they don't necessarily take that opportunity upon themselves until recently. Like you're saying, if I'm an NFL player and I know I could just get absolutely trucked the next game, and I might never be the same. Alex Smith recently, crazy comeback story because this man was almost dead and he can still play football. But that, hopefully it doesn't, but that shit could happen to somebody like that. If I know I could be in the league for 5 years or less is not a ridiculous amount of time to think I could be out of league in that time. I definitely want to play for and work with the best team, the best management, the best ownership that I can possibly. I don't want to waste those 3 years that I have in the league. It just does not seem worth it.
Right.
Hey, but there's levels to it. There's levels to it. So, like, if you are Deshaun Watson with the Texans, where, like, they were good for a couple years last year, fire their coach, who was also their GM. They go, I think, 4-12 on the season, like, bad team, basically blowing it up. They have no draft picks coming up this year. There are no early draft picks coming up this year. They traded them away for players. They traded away one of their best assets and, like, DeAndre Hopkins for nothing. Like, ownership and management is, like, gone to shit, basically. That's a firestorm situation. That is like a, man, this building is burning around me. Like, I got to get the hell out of here. But then there's Russell Wilson, where it's like, hey, I've been going to the playoffs. Like, my team has been 12-4. We've been winning divisions. Like, yeah, I'm not in that Aaron Rodgers category. But you also got to think Russell Wilson, like, a big thing, which I don't think it's that important, but if you're playing for legacy, like, he's been one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL for a couple of years, and the dude's never got an MVP vote. I don't think it really matters, but whatever, that's important to do. So, like, there's, like, different levels, though. So Russell Wilson, 12-4, you might, like, you're unhappy with your offensive line. Are you asking out of there, or are you doing it at a point where it's like, I'm 4-12, Deshaun Watson, like, shitstorm going on around me? What do y'all think?
And I think to that point, like, if your team's a dumpster fire, like, it's insane that the organization has expectations for you to spend, like, the prime of your career just, like, sitting there, right? Like of course they're gonna want out of there, right? It's like, what do you expect? Do you expect, like, it's like, okay, like, yeah.
Oh, but he signed a contract.
Right,
he signed a contract.
It's like, okay, like, are you just telling him he's got to sit there for 5 years or however long, like, and just sitting there and, like, around him, like how demotivating is that? Especially, like, I mean, like, when you have teams, like, who are, like, tanking just to get, like, higher draft picks and stuff like that, it's like, what incentive is there for you to want to stay around a team that's really bad?
Money.
And then also just trying to, but then it's like, at some point, I mean,
trust me, those dudes.
In their position, but, like, at some point you got to know the money isn't worth it anymore.
Yeah, players don't tank, though, dude. Players don't tank. Like, you might ask out, but it's like, hey, if your team is a dumpster fire, if you're on the football field, like, you're playing hard, you're doing the best you can. You know what I mean? Like, I can't blame you for wanting to get out, but I don't think there's any, like, sacrifice and, like, effort if your team isn't worth a shit.
Right. But, I mean, I'm sure you'd be pissed if you're like, my organization is potentially trying to screw me over. Like, I'm trying to ball out and, you know, make it to the playoffs, win a Super Bowl, and they're just like, actually, you're going to sit here for 5 years, and we're going to build some pieces, and then when you're out of your prime, we're going to pick someone else out, like, in the draft, and then we'll have the perfect team. So your job is just to sit here and, you know, make us look.
But sometimes that's how dudes make money. You got, like, Ryan Fitzpatrick, you know what I mean? Just legend, dude, just going through it, like, team to team, winning games, doing whatever, and it's like he keeps getting cut and going at it because he's trying to make that bread. He probably loves football and, you know, the whole spiel like that. But the dude's trying to get that paper, man.
Well, bro, something I'm thinking about right now, like, because the NFL is more like team, like more like the Shield type shit, right? So, like, as a Ravens fan, to be honest, I'm always going to be rooting for the Ravens. Like, it is kind of ingrained in me that way. Like, as much as I love Lamar and some of the other pieces that the Ravens have, if we lost all those players, I'm going to be like, damn, that sucks. But I'm still a Ravens fan. But there does have to be some appeal to being like a shitty team and having a good player. Like, you know, it's some reason to get people to come out and buy tickets. And I don't know if that's so strong with the NFL as it may be with other teams. Like, if you're a shit-stained baseball team, like, it's got to be tough out here right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, baseball is pretty boring. I think it's way better in person than on TV. Oh, yeah. But if you get a good player through the draft, you're probably holding on to them. And once again, from the business side, you're like, I'm not letting go of this. This is the only reason that people are coming is because they want to see, you know, such and such hit dingers. And, like, we're hanging on to this person. So,
hey, shout out Pitchers and Catchers Report this week.
Hey, okay. MLB coming back in the swing.
I almost wore the jersey for it today. I was about to throw on the Jim Palmer jersey we got at the game.
Oh, true. Dude, we'll wear it next episode. Let me know. We'll wear it together. Right. I got it in my closet right next to me. Anyway, but yeah, so, I mean, there is, from a business standpoint, I feel like I'm taking the side of, like, the teams too much here. But, of course, they want to hang on to the people. But, yeah, once again, if I'm the player and things are shitty, I'll just go back to the point I made earlier. I want to work with good people. I want to work with people that have the same mission involved, or, like, the same level of involvement and, like, idea as me. And to Jonathan's point, like, if that's not happening, if they're just rebuilding around me, yeah, I'm trying to get out, bro. I'm gonna do whatever to get out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I want to ask a question to you all. I know how we kind of said NFL is more about the shield, whereas, like, basketball is more about the individual players. Do you guys think that has to do with the number of players on the teams? Like, football, it's a big team. Basketball, you only got 5. You only got 5 on the court. So it's like, does that make a difference?
I'd be curious to see if it's not the player mobility, because like, how are you gonna, in NBA, like, how do you fall in love with like the Wizards, our hometown team, which I do love my Wizards, but like, how do you fall in love when it's like John Wall was here for however many years and you just trade him away like it's nothing, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened like that in the past in the NFL. Joe Flacco basically played his whole career here in Baltimore. It wasn't long, but his whole career. Ray Lewis, whole career. Ed Reed, whole career in Baltimore. A lot of these players are like staple. Like, they stayed with their teams through the highs and the lows, and you just don't see that in the NBA as much. The team turns into dog shit. They trade their star players away, try to get assets and see if they can get back to the top as fast as they can. And it's hard to invest in a team where it's like your favorite players are there for a couple of years,
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
It's also simply because I feel like we're seeing that a lot more, because like going back to the NBA conversation, it was like players are trying to build their brand and they don't have to necessarily fall back on that team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like we're seeing that a lot more. You can cut that.
Another thing to Jonathan's jeez, bro. Another thing to Jonathan's point, though, like, because there's only 5 people playing, for a team on a basketball court. I mean, you look at a lot of the teams are trying to get a big 2 is like ideal. If you have 3 people, it's basically game over. Like with the Nets, because they have 3 superstars, it's like, holy shit, we can't compete. That being said, if an NBA team invested into a X amount of players for their entire career, at some point those players are going to fall off. Maybe you start with 5 players and they're pretty good, but 3 years in, 1 player starts declining. 5 years in, the next one. 7 years in, the next one. By the time that 7-year mark happens, that person that fell off in their 3rd year is trash, unplayable, right? Whereas with the NFL, because there's so many people on the field, I think you have an opportunity to maybe use people longer than maybe you should, because, I mean, there's a lot of safeguards around you because there's more players. And that's another thing. If you're not a skill position in football, like, I don't know who linemen are. Sorry, but I don't. Like, sorry to all the linemen out there. But it's hard to be popular and be able to demand that same thing as some of these, like, non-glamour positions in the NFL, where in the NBA, you could be a forward, you could be a guard, you could be a center. If you're nice, you're nice. And you could alter, how games are going to go. You could alter a franchise by being a single guy. If you're the best, like, right guard, like, that's only going to take you so far. Like, I don't think you're winning a Super Bowl because you secure the best right guard or the best, like, safety. Like, yeah, it's going to be a huge asset, and that's going to help, but
you also have the injury factor too. It's like you throw in a guy and it's like, I don't even want, never mind, I'm not even gonna say it out loud. But if somebody on the Ravens went down, there are some players like one crucial injury and like the team is gone though. And
we had a crucial injury with Ronnie Stanley.
Yeah, but that's the thing though too. So it's like you might bank your whole season on like, what, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna be a fan of Lamar Jackson, and then it's like Lamar Jackson goes down, and it's like you still have a lot invested in that team to where like a lot of times in the NBA, I mean, yeah, if LeBron went down, it'd be devastating. Like if Kawhi went down, it'd be devastating. If KD went down again, it'd be devastating. But like a lot of that stuff is like 1/5 of your team. You plug somebody else in there that's decent, you're still like competitive, but it's not as entertaining to watch. So
there's no depth on the bench or in the team.
You're losing it because somebody got to step up, and then you taking somebody off of like waivers or some shit like that. You all of a sudden have to go from a player that is getting like, a cut, balled out, like has literally been playing overseas, and you're like, well, we got you now.
Right.
Imagine, bro, like a superstar goes down and you end up with, shout out your boy Michael Beasley, Durner. Not that he's a bad hooper, but you know what I mean? There's a reason he ain't in the league right now.
Right.
PG County, what up?
What I found really interesting, though, is that when you look at the NBA, when you talk about legacy, right, you usually are talking about a particular player, right? What is LeBron James' legacy? What is Michael Jordan's legacy, right? But then when you go to the NFL, it's the same thing. You're talking about individual players. It's like what is, like, Patrick Mahomes' legacy? What is Tom Brady's legacy, right? But it's a really interesting point that you guys make, because it's about the shield, it's about the team, right? But it's like, why do we still have the same talk? Like, we're having the same conversations, it's just a different sport. Like, I feel like this is just kind of proof that it's always been about the players, but we're just, for some reason, just the way that they want to present it, it's like, oh, it's about the team. It's like, is it? Because, I mean, to your point, like, we don't talk about the guards. We don't talk about, like, we talk about, like, Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes, like old goat versus new goat, right? But it's not. I mean, I feel like that's what the people are talking about at least.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Tom Brady, how many Super Bowls do we have to win before we're tossing the Lombardi Trophy from boat to boat? I want to know because 7, that's a lot of Super Bowls, and the dude was just hucking it. Him and
Oh,
Brock are
man.
playing catch back and forth on the boat.
Bro, I
Three
think
Super Bowls.
I'm glad that Brady was the first person to do that, like as buttoned up as he had to be in New England for so long. You know what I'm saying? Plus, Tom Brady, by many is regarded as the GOAT. So if somebody's going to start the trend, like I'm glad it was Brady and not some random, DB, like irrelevant person that's just like too drunk and just like, ha. But I think we'll see this more now. I have a
On
feeling
his
that
$2 million $2 million boat.
big
He
flex.
just pulls up, big, huge flex. Just pulls up and parties.
He's like, this
Hey,
trophy's
if-
not cool enough
Throws
to
the
be on my
Lombardi
boat.
Trophy.
Hey, if we drink avocado tequila, will we win 7 Super Bowls?
I think it works
Let's
the other
try
way.
it.
To find
I
out.
think you gotta win, and then you can drink the avocado tequila.
Mm.
Can't
Now
tell.
I
Maybe
see.
we'll test it out. See which one works.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Hey, well, that's all we got on today's episode. I think we're going to have to wrap this one up. It's about time. Hey, 8 a.m. Wednesday. See you next week. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Man.
Hey, everybody. Hope you liked that video. Make sure you smash the like and subscribe like I just smashed that dinger. Let's fucking go. Check us out next week.